Brian Smith has written his 8th novel, The Confessions of Dudley Sims, The Making of an Unlikely Hero. I was at once attracted to the title, not because I knew who this Dudley Sims might be, but first of all because it was something I think we can all identify with, the unlikely hero. More than that, the story lifts us because it describes in the most direct language how out of ordinary, everyday lives, one single event can set off a whole train of happenings. Even when we feel nothing is happening, that life is so boring, and we are in a phase of nothingness and boredom. Yes, we can be doing virtually nothing, and in walks someone and says something, makes a request, makes a demand, makes a comment, states an idea, opens a conversation. And like a dog let off its leash early in the morning, you never know where it's going to head. But you soon do know that once that single action has occurred, it can be difficult to predict the course of events thereafter. I frequently say to people, be careful that your one apparently insignificant action or comment does not lead you into situations over which you will have no control. Or to state what we all know, but often ignore, people do not always behave as we would like them to, or as we think they should. And then events don't occur according to our wishes or our expectations. And thereafter, a wide range of human emotions can spill out in front of us, spill out behind us, in all their variety: surprise, astonishment, pleasure, and joy, or gloom, anger, frustration, and despair. And in those reactions, Brian Smith's book identified a third issue that immediately affects us. In the first 6 words of chapter 1, he grabbed my attention. It says, in the catalogue of life-changing events. And I thought, a catalogue of life-changing events, just give me one life-changing event, and that ought to satisfy me. Not a whole catalogue. One life-changing event will do. But what will it be? You see, some life-changing events can take us that way, some can take us that way. We all have them. One such event can throw us into a heap, gloom up to our shoulders. Another such event can open up all the possibilities of a new phase of life, great pleasure and happiness. But even as we gasp at the exciting colours of the sunrise, someone else, by one action, can wash it right away. So let me put in my left hand a load of life-changing events. The doctor says, I've got bad news for you. Your husband, your wife, announces that their job has come to an end and the lifestyle that you enjoyed so much for so long is over. Your adult daughter tells you she doesn't want to see you anymore. Your mother is diagnosed with dementia, and your father is already a sick man and can't cope with any further burdens, so your life is going to change. We all have our lists that we could put into that left hand. The other day, a man who had never given me any notion, any reason to think he had any awareness of anything religious, suddenly out of the blue said, "You know, I'm not about to have some Damascus Road experience." And I hesitated. I hadn't thought of that phrase for decades. I think his comment may have been his fear that perhaps he was having a Damascus Road experience. Perhaps he was saying something that he would like to have, as indeed most of us from time to time wish we could have, a life-changing experience, a Damascus Road experience. So much of my left hand, holding a catalogue of stressful, what I might call negative life experiences, life changes. In my right hand, there are other life-changing events, some of which we've had, and we really didn't know we'd had them until years later. They've gone. Some of which we know all too well. The doctor says, good news, you can go for your holiday. Or your son announces another grandchild is on the way, and just as you were about to think, not another birthday present, 15 of them already, you take hold of yourself and you say, that will be a life-changing event they really need. And everything changes. You can go on, I think, naming life-changing events to put into my right hand. Just when we're about a bit tired of your several friends grizzling about little things, boring things, the burdens of so many things, all of that, you wish you could say, look, let me have a life-changing event. One of my staff several years ago walked into my office one day and said, I'm leaving. She was an outstanding member of staff, and I said, why are you leaving? She said, I'm going to get a life. She said, I've had enough of all this infighting and squabbling and back and forth and backbiting. I'm going to get a life. So she's going to start a life-changing event, and she did. So we can be in all those things and not notice that the magpies were warbling out there in the trees this morning. Or a total stranger on the train you notice is reading a book that you read 20 years ago. And it sets off a whole stream of remembrances and consciousness that are beautiful, beautiful. You know that you're walking around with a life-threatening cancer in your body, but your mind tells you there is something ahead that is positive and good, that there is a light shining for you somewhere there, and the gloom lifts, and you have a life-changing event. Last Friday, along with the streets being closed off, we had an attendance of some 90 people at our Sage gathering. And afterwards, 3 people came to me with their stories that they'd carried around with them for decades. Stories of life-changing experiences. Here is just one of them. Back in the early 1970s, several Catholic convents and monasteries in this city invited me to conduct seminars for them. Seminars on adapting to new life situations, adapting to change. Seminars on a psychology to deal constructively with huge unsettling experiences, coping with emotions that they had not known before, had not experienced before, and had not foreseen would be part of their lives. Seminars on life-changing events. On Friday, one of those nuns came to Sage. Never been before. And she said, do you remember? Do you remember coming to our convent back there? Of course I remembered. How could I forget? In that particular convent, I was ushered in on the first day. I was ushered into a very large meeting room, twice the size of our hall, and there were 40 nuns, at least, sitting, waiting. At the back were the older nuns in lines, and at the front were the young nuns. I noticed them. And she recalled what an impact those seminars had on her. And that was more than 35 years ago. Life-changing events have several characteristics. Here they are. Number one, they can run past you, and you may not give them the status of a good life-changing event until many years later. Don't miss them when they occur. Or secondly, positive life-changing events can emerge out of situations of gloom. They may not be what you expected, nor what you demanded, or thought should be there as possible. But you can be going in one direction, set on your own agenda, and then discover out of nowhere something like a Damascus Road experience, a life changer. Or thirdly, positive life-changing events can occur after you've been bowled over by a negative life-changing event. And the positive life-changing event that occurs can occur by some external intervention, from another person perhaps, from some external observation. The woman sees someone with a book that she recognises. They're on the train. Dudley Sims goes to a boring community forum. Everything changes. Someone says, it's time, it's time. Time to stop aggravating on your anger. Time to stop being so boring. See a light shining in the distant gloom and head for it. Positive, life-changing events can occur even though you're facing life-threatening illnesses. That's extraordinary, isn't it? It's like I was saying a few weeks ago, it's the miracle of life. I said at Sage on Friday, for everyone who hopes to grow old may be 60 for some, 80 for others, 97 for others, 106 for others. In another time, I wrote about the categories of aging. The young elderly, some of you were there, 61 to 65. The middle elderly, 66 to 75. The elderly, 76 to 85. The old elderly, 86 to 95. And then the elite elderly, 96 to 105. Now, most people want to be amongst the elite, don't you? I should pause for your reply. Well, I'm not there yet. But as I speak to those who have made it to become amongst the elite, they have said, sometimes it just happens. And you find yourself at 106 without much trying. It's like grace, perhaps. But other times it requires strategic action and constant attitudinal change. That's what they said, change of attitude. People may not die early in their bodies, but they die early in their attitudes. I think there is such a thing as an attitudinal death. And if we're not careful, we can all drift into our attitudinal death. Being attitudinally dead, they are even immune, they are even unaware that they are attitudinally dead. Of course. There is a celebrative death, when we stop celebrating the magpies and the good things of life that happen. There is a living death when we get stuck with too much grizzling and complaining. We're living our death. The normal life cycle involves dying. But before dying occurs, before dying comes, there may be deterioration, decline, disengagement, dependence, dementia, many deficits, and then the disappearance. I would hope to find a psychology and a theology of courage. I'm looking for it still. Of courage to deal with those 8 Ds. Those 8 Ds of our destiny, or possible destiny. With courage, we may find that courage is the key to a different life-changing event. Now, I know some people are here today with questions about my style and form of preaching. They say, where are the scriptures? Where is Jesus? Where are we going? So I say, let's go slowly for a minute. This form and style of preaching is what I call inductive preaching. It starts with the human experience and the questions that that experience evokes. On the other hand, deductive preaching hammers the answers into the ground before we've listened to the questions. It's a very common form of preaching. Not here, I hope. So now I lay alongside the searching questions of our life-changing events, the scriptural event of Palm Sunday, a life-changing event. From gloom to celebration, from despair to hope, from anger to a better way, from the past to pointing finger into the future, from a way of heavy burdens to lifting the burdens and lightening of attitudes, from the retrospective realities to the striving for a new focus on what we will do now and how we will live a rightful, flourishing life in the future, instead of being tangled up in all those negative, life-changing events. Palm Sunday comes right out of the book and says to us, you can live like the money changers behind your closed doors if you like. Or you can embrace the courage and the therapy of the courage that will be part of the process of exploring a different place, where negative and sad experiences become positive, life-changing experiences, loaded with positive strengths, enhancing to the human spirit. Yes, indeed. In the best theology and the best psychology, we search to identify in ourselves the belief that a good life event is possible. And we might focus on our good models and our best attitudes. Good models and best attitudes. Focus on them. In Jesus of Nazareth, we see such a model and such an attitude. Carrying the symbols of hope and healing, carrying the symbols of strength and courage, carrying the symbols of what life can be without the strong, pervasive symbols of the negative issues that prevent us from being what we can be. Some life-changing events are both persuasive and deceptive. They have promise, but the promise can get loaded with punitive consequences. The old symbol of Eve's apple in the garden promised something beautiful to taste. But the taste turns sour. Many get stuck right there. And they live their life in the sour lane and don't see that the complexities and the celebrations of life keep opening up ways for us to strive and struggle with those questions. In our search for the life-changing events that will be the best that life has given us. One important thing that can be said for a good religion, and I say this because I know many people knock religion in all of its expressions or in some particular expression. But one important thing can be said of a good religion. And this is it, I think. In face of the negative, life-changing events, positive life-changing events can emerge or can be constructed. They can emerge or we can construct them. And when that occurs, there is good reason to celebrate. If a positive life-changing event does not occur, then we lose the motivation to celebrate. And we lose contact with one of life's greatest gifts, the transformational power, the transformative power of a positive life-changing event. Would you please stand? Say with me, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And the blessing, may the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forwards. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.